There is a specific kind of financial confusion that almost everyone has experienced at some point. You are standing next to someone whose life from the outside looks like the definition of financial success. The apartment is impressive, the car is new and expensive, the clothes are the right brands, the restaurants are the ones where you check the menu price before you go. The vacations show up on social media from places you've been meaning to visit someday. Everything about this person's visible life communicates that they have figured out something about money that most people haven't. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you start measuring your car against theirs, your apartment against theirs, your Friday night against the Friday night they just posted. You feel the subtle pull of a comparison you didn't choose to make, but can't quite stop making. The nagging sense that this person is ahead of you in some fundamental way, and that their life is the standard yours should eventually reach. Then, you find out the truth. The car is leased, and the payment is stretching the budget past its actual capacity. The apartment requires a credit card balance that hasn't been paid in full in 8 months. The vacations were funded by a combination of BNPL financing, depleted savings, and a quiet internal promise to deal with the financial consequences later. The person you were measuring yourself against was performing wealth, not building it, and the performance was funded by debt that was compounding in the background, while the Instagram feed looked better every week. This is not a rare story. It is one of the most common financial realities in modern America. According to a 2025 Lending Club report, 62% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, including 36% of people earning over $100,000 annually. The income that should produce financial security is instead producing a lifestyle whose monthly cost exactly consumes it, leaving nothing underneath. The gap between what financial lives look like from the outside and what they actually are from the inside has never been wider. Social media has made the performance of wealth cheaper and easier than at any point in history. A single well-timed photo from a hotel lobby, a restaurant, or an airport lounge communicates prosperity regardless of what the bank balance shows at that exact moment. But the performance leaves traces, behavioral patterns that reveal the gap between the surface and the reality for anyone who knows what to look for. Signs that are visible once you understand what they mean, and that are easy to miss until you do. This video covers 11 of them, not to generate judgment about the people who exhibit them, to generate awareness about the people around you, about the comparisons you might be making against the wrong standard, and about the patterns that might be showing up in your own financial behavior in ways you haven't fully examined yet. If you're into this kind of content, take a second to subscribe. And if this video helps you at any point, tap that like button. It really helps the channel. And now, let's get into it. Sign 1. The lease cycle that never ends. Pay attention to someone's vehicle history over a period of 5 to 10 years. Not the brand, not the model, not how clean it is on Sunday mornings. The ownership structure. Do they own it or lease it? And if they lease, do they lease continuously? One premium vehicle returned and immediately replaced with the next, perpetually in the newest model, perpetually making a monthly payment, perpetually building zero equity? The continuous lease cycle is one of the clearest behavioral signals that someone is prioritizing the appearance of financial success over its actual construction. Here is what leasing actually is, stripped from the marketing language that makes it sound like a sophisticated financial strategy. A lease is a rental agreement for the most expensive years of a vehicle's life, the period of steepest depreciation. The leasing company estimates what the vehicle will be worth at the end of the lease term and charges the lessee for the difference between the purchase price and that residual value, plus interest, taxes, and fees. At the end of the lease, the lessee has paid for the vehicle's sharpest value decline and owns nothing. They return the car and begin the cycle again with a fresh vehicle and a fresh payment. The average new car lease payment in the United States reached approximately $590 monthly in 2025, according to Experian data. Someone who leases continuously from age 28 to age 58 makes 360 monthly payments averaging $590 and arrives at age 58 having spent $212,400 on vehicles they never owned. That same $590 monthly invested at 8% annual returns over 30 years becomes approximately $876,000. The person driving the newest BMW on the block is not necessarily the wealthiest person on the block. They may be the person who has most efficiently converted their income into a transportation appearance while building the least amount of actual wealth from it. Genuinely wealthy people, as documented in Ramsey Solutions' survey of over 10,000 millionaires, overwhelmingly buy their vehicles rather than leasing them, pay modest prices relative to their net worth, and drive them for extended periods well past the point where most Americans would have traded up. The lease that looks like wealth is frequently the financial behavior that most reliably prevents it. Sign 2. They finance furniture and home goods. Furniture financing exists as a product because it is extraordinarily profitable for the retailers who offer it. The 0% interest for 24 months promotion that appears at the checkout of every major furniture retailer is not a consumer benefit. It is a customer acquisition strategy with a carefully engineered conversion mechanism built into its terms. The deferred interest structure, the fine print version of most furniture financing offers, charges no interest during the promotional period, but retroactively applies interest at the full rate, typically 26 to 29%, to the entire original purchase amount if any balance remains at the promotion's end. A $2,400 sofa financed at 0% for 24 months that has a $300 remaining balance at month 25 generates interest on the full $2,400, not the $300, at 28% APR. The consumer who was making payments faithfully for 2 years suddenly receives a bill that bears no relationship to the remaining balance they expected to pay. Beyond the specific mechanics of deferred interest, furniture financing reveals something fundamental about a person's relationship with their own cash flow. The decision to finance a sofa is the decision that the cash required to purchase it is not currently available, that the monthly budget cannot absorb the full cost without being spread across payments. In a household with genuine financial health, furniture is either purchased with cash or with a credit card paid in full at statement close. The monthly payment plan for a couch is not a financial strategy. It is evidence that the visible standard of living exceeds what the current cash flow can actually support. Someone furnishing their home with financed items from premium retailers while maintaining the social appearance of comfortable financial success is not living within their means. They are living within their credit limit, which is a categorically different and considerably more fragile position. Sign 3. They never discuss investing or retirement, ever. This sign requires calibration because not everyone who avoids financial conversations is secretly broke, and not every financially struggling person avoids them. But in combination with the other signs on this list, the pattern of never mentioning investing, retirement savings, or financial goals across years of friendship is meaningful. People who are genuinely building wealth talk about money differently than people who are spending it. The financial behaviors that build wealth, contributing to retirement accounts, investing in index funds, tracking savings rates, working towards specific financial targets, become part of how people think and therefore part of how they talk. The person who maxed out their Roth IRA this year mentions it the way they mention anything else they did this month. It's not a performance or a financial flex, it's a thing that happened, part of the fabric of their financial life. The person whose financial life consists primarily of spending has nothing in this category to mention because nothing in this category is happening. The 401k contribution was reduced to free up cash flow for the lifestyle. The IRA was never opened because the timing never felt right. The investment account doesn't exist because every dollar of income found a spending destination before an investment destination was considered. According to Vanguard's 2024 How America Saves report, the median 401k balance across all participants is approximately $35,286. For people between 35 and 44, the demographic most likely to be visibly performing financial success, the median balance is $76,354. For context, someone earning $70,000 annually, contributing 10% for 15 years at 8% returns, would have approximately $293,000. The median suggests that the average person in their late 30s and early 40s is dramatically behind what consistent contribution would have produced. The person who has been a friend or colleague for 3 years and has never once mentioned a retirement account, a savings goal, or a financial strategy is not necessarily broke. But if their visible lifestyle is expensive and the financial infrastructure conversation is permanently absent, the silence is information worth noting. Sign 4. Their social life is always funded at the expensive end. This sign is subtle and requires context because there is nothing inherently concerning about someone who enjoys good restaurants or premium experiences. The signal is the pattern, specifically whether the person's social choices are always calibrated to the most expensive available option, regardless of the occasion, regardless of who they're with, regardless of what would make genuine sense for a night out among friends. The secretly broke person who is performing wealth faces a specific social pressure that genuinely wealthy people do not. Their financial identity is built on what other people perceive, which means every social occasion is an opportunity to reinforce or undermine the image they're maintaining. Suggesting a moderately priced restaurant feels like admitting something. Ordering the cheaper wine feels like a signal. Declining to do the second bar because it's getting expensive feels like a confession. So they never suggest the moderate option. They order the expensive dish. They offer to get the next round before anyone else has finished the current one. They throw the card down at the end of the night with a casualness that signals abundance, a performance so consistent and so calibrated that it reads as genuine wealth to everyone at the table. The cost of this performance compounds rapidly. According to research from Bankrate, Americans spent an average of $3,458 annually on social activities in 2024, dining, entertainment, experiences with friends. For the person performing wealth, the actual number is often 40 to 60% higher than that average, because every social decision is made against the criterion of appearance rather than genuine preference or financial capacity. The tell is not the expensive choice itself. It is the absence of any moderate choice over an extended period. Genuinely wealthy people order the expensive thing when they want the expensive thing, and order the simple thing when that's what sounds good. The person performing wealth orders the expensive thing because the table is watching. Sign 5. The bill split negotiation at group dinners. This sign exists in direct tension with sign 4, and understanding both together reveals the full behavioral picture. The person performing wealth orders generously and publicly, the expensive entree, the extra round, the dessert everyone else declined. Then, when the check arrives, they become precise. They calculate their portion with an attention to detail that was entirely absent during the ordering. They suggest splitting evenly when the math works in their favor, when they ordered the most expensive items, and an even split means they pay less than their actual share. Or they Venmo request their exact portion to the cent before anyone else has processed the total. The precision is the signal. People with genuine financial comfort are loose with restaurant math because the small differences between what each person ordered don't register as meaningful relative to their overall financial picture. They round up, they cover the extra, they pick up the tab when it's their turn, without calculating whether their turn has arrived yet. The person for whom every dollar is actually more constrained than their lifestyle suggests cannot afford to be loose with restaurant math. The performance requires public generosity during the meal, the expensive order, the offer to get another round, but private precision when the actual settlement arrives. The gap between these two behaviors in the same evening is one of the most revealing financial tells available in a social setting. A 2025 survey found that 26% of Americans regularly spend more than they earn. The restaurant is frequently where that spending happens, funded by a credit card carrying a balance at 22% APR. The person ordering the $52 steak and negotiating the check split is not managing their finances carefully. They are managing their image carefully, while the actual finances manage themselves in the direction of deeper debt. Sign 6. They talk about money in future tense only. Listen carefully to how someone talks about their financial life. The specific tense they use when discussing wealth, investments, savings, and financial goals reveals whether those things currently exist or are perpetually on the horizon. Genuinely wealthy people and genuine wealth builders talk about their finances in the present tense, because the financial behaviors are happening now. I maxed out my 401k this year. I've been putting a percentage of every paycheck into index funds for the past 5 years. My emergency fund is at 4 months of expenses. I paid off the last of my student loans 6 months ago. The present tense reflects a present reality. The secretly broke person who is aware of what they should be doing, and most of them are, financial literacy has never been more widely available, talks about money in the future tense. I'm going to start investing seriously once I get this credit card paid down. Once the lease is up, I'm going to start putting that payment into savings instead. I've been meaning to open a Roth IRA. That's happening this year for sure. Next quarter, I'm going to increase my 401k contribution. The future tense is not a plan. It is a performance of responsibility, the verbal equivalent of the visible lifestyle. It communicates the right financial intentions without requiring the financial behavior that would make them real. And because the future is always approaching but never quite arriving, the responsible behavior it promises can be perpetually deferred, without ever requiring acknowledgement that deferral is the actual strategy. Research from the National Endowment for Financial Education found that people with written, specific financial goals accumulate significantly more wealth than people with general intentions. The future tense talker has general intentions in abundance. They have specific, current, active financial behaviors in very short supply. The conversation sounds responsible. The bank account tells the actual story. Sign 7. Every upgrade happens at the first available opportunity. Watch the upgrade pattern. The phone, the moment a new model is released. The apartment, the moment the lease allows moving to something larger. The wardrobe after every significant life event, new job, new relationship, new city, as an occasion that justifies starting fresh with better things. The car when the current lease expires, rather than at the point when the financial picture makes an upgrade genuinely sensible. Upgrading is not inherently a problem. Progress is real, and lifestyle improvement over time is a reasonable expectation for someone whose income is growing. The signal is the timing and the compulsion, the inability to maintain a functional, comfortable current situation when a more impressive alternative becomes accessible, regardless of whether the financial foundation supports the upgrade. The Diderot effect, the documented psychological tendency for one upgrade to create perceived inadequacy in everything surrounding it, operates particularly powerfully on people whose self-image is tied to their visible financial status. The new apartment makes the old furniture look wrong. The new furniture makes the old car look inconsistent with the life being constructed. The upgraded car makes the old wardrobe seem mismatched with the vehicle. Each upgrade generates the next in a chain that has no natural stopping point, because the stopping point would require accepting a current state as sufficient, an acceptance that someone performing wealth cannot comfortably make. The financial cost of perpetual upgrading is substantial. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics consumer expenditure data, Americans who frequently upgrade major possession categories, vehicles, housing, electronics, clothing, spend 30 to 50% more annually in those categories than people who maintain functional items until genuine replacement is necessary. That premium across multiple categories simultaneously represents $8,000 to $15,000 annually redirected into potential wealth building, into the maintenance of an escalating visible standard. Sign 8. They're uncomfortable or evasive when real financial questions arise. Not the performance financial questions, not how much did that vacation cost or where did you get those shoes. The real ones. What's your savings rate right now? Have you thought about life insurance? Did you increase your retirement contribution after your raise? Watch what happens to the secretly broke person when these questions surface in a conversation that isn't about showing off purchases. The deflection is immediate and practiced. Money is so boring, let's talk about something fun. I honestly don't even look at my accounts. Ignorance is bliss. I need to get more serious about that stuff. I've been meaning to figure out my whole financial situation. Each of these deflections is a confession in casual clothing. The person who doesn't look at their accounts is not free from financial anxiety. They are protected from financial reality by a layer of deliberate unawareness that allows the lifestyle to continue without the cognitive dissonance of confronting the numbers it produces. Financial shame is one of the most powerful and least discussed forces in American social life. Research consistently shows that people are more willing to discuss their marriage problems, their health diagnoses, and their family conflicts than to disclose the number in their checking account. The shame around money, particularly the shame of visible affluence concealing financial struggle, creates a wall of deflection that looks like casualness but is actually protection. A 2025 SoFi report identified avoidance of financial conversations as one of the primary behavioral correlates of high earners living paycheck to paycheck. The persona that replaces the financial system is maintained precisely through this avoidance. Engaging with real financial questions would require either numbers they don't have or an honesty they're not ready for. The joke about not looking at the accounts is the most truthful thing they say on the subject. Sign 9. Their emergency preparedness is 0. The emergency fund question is one of the sharpest dividing lines between genuine financial health and performed financial success. Not because having an emergency fund is particularly sophisticated, it is the most basic financial protection available, but because the lifestyle that performs wealth and the financial behavior that builds it make directly competing claims on the same dollars, and the emergency fund is always what loses. The $600 monthly lease payment on the BMW cannot simultaneously be a $600 monthly emergency fund contribution. The $2,400 quarterly wardrobe refresh cannot simultaneously be a $2,400 emergency fund contribution. Every dollar directed toward the visible performance of wealth is a dollar unavailable for the invisible infrastructure of actual financial health. According to Bankrate's 2025 Emergency Savings Report, 57% of Americans could not cover a $1,000 unexpected expense from savings. Among people earning $75,000 to $100,000 annually, a demographic whose income level is frequently associated with visible financial success, the proportion unable to cover a $1,000 emergency remains alarmingly high. The income is present, the emergency cushion is not, because the income found other destinations first. The practical consequence is that any unexpected expense, a medical bill, a car repair, a home appliance failure, immediately becomes a credit card charge on a balance that may already be carrying significant debt. The emergency that would be a minor inconvenience for a person with 3 months of expenses in a savings account becomes a financial crisis for the person whose savings account balance is zero, because every available dollar was committed to maintaining a lifestyle whose visible standard requires it. The absence of emergency savings is invisible from the outside. So is its presence. The difference between having it and not having it is entirely private, which is precisely why the person performing wealth has no external incentive to build it. Sign 10. Their generosity is public, their financial discipline is absent. Public generosity and private financial chaos are more compatible than most people realize, and their coexistence is one of the more counterintuitive signs on this list. The person who picks up the tab at group dinners, who sends the most impressive birthday gift, who contributes generously to every crowd-funded cause in their social network, who tips conspicuously and comments on the tip in a way that ensures the table noticed. This public generosity reads as abundance, as someone operating from a position of financial surplus comfortable enough to share freely. The behavioral economics of performative generosity reveal a different mechanism. For the person whose financial identity depends on the perception of others, public generosity is an investment in the image that their visible lifestyle is constructing. The $80 they picked up generated more perception value, more reinforcement of the wealthy image than $80 spent in any other way available to them at that moment. It was not generosity from surplus, it was marketing spend. The privately financially disciplined person, the person actually building wealth, may be considerably less spectacular in visible generosity because their financial behaviors are calibrated to genuine capacity rather than perceived image. They tip appropriately rather than conspicuously. They give genuine gifts rather than impressive ones. They contribute to causes they care about at levels that fit their actual financial picture, rather than their desired social position. The distinction between genuine generosity and performative generosity is almost impossible to detect in any individual interaction. The pattern over time reveals itself. The person whose public generosity is consistently more impressive than their private financial behaviors would seem to support is using spending as social currency, in a way that is spending, not giving. Sign 11. They're always about to get serious about money. This is the final and, in many ways, the most revealing sign on the list, because it operates entirely in language rather than behavior, and language is the last refuge of the financially performing person when behavioral evidence has accumulated enough to require some kind of response. Everyone in their social circle is getting more serious about investing. The FIRE movement content is all over their feed. They watched a personal finance video last week that really made them think. They're about to do a complete financial audit. They're going to sit down this weekend and really figure out the budget. They're planning to open a brokerage account as soon as they get through this busy period at work. The about to get serious person has been about to get serious for years. The specific trigger for finally doing it is always just ahead. The next paycheck, the end of the lease, the holiday spending settled down, the promotion that's coming. The discipline is perpetually imminent and permanently future. The behavioral research on this pattern is clear. Financial behavior change requires structure, not intention. The person who says, "I'm going to start saving more next month," and does not simultaneously set up an automatic transfer that will implement that intention, is statistically unlikely to follow through. The intention is real. The structure that would make it happen is absent. Without the structure, the next discretionary spending opportunity, which arrives within days, absorbs the dollars the intention had earmarked for saving. According to Fidelity's Q4 2025 data, the average combined retirement savings rate, including employer matches, is 14.2%. That average is carried by the people who automated their contributions years ago and haven't thought about them since. The people who are about to get serious contribute to the denominator. They drag the average down while generating no movement whatsoever in their own financial position. The about to get serious person is not lazy or dishonest. They are trapped in a cycle where the lifestyle they're performing requires every available dollar to maintain, leaving nothing for the financial behaviors they genuinely intend to implement. The intention is sincere. The gap between the intention and the behavior is the gap between looking wealthy and being wealthy, and it is funded month after month by the next credit card statement that neither they nor anyone in their life will ever see. 11 signs. Not a checklist for judging the people around you. A map of behavioral patterns that separate financial performance from financial reality, and that are worth understanding for two distinct reasons. The first reason is the comparisons you might be making. If you have spent time measuring your financial life against someone else's visible standard, their apartment, their car, their restaurants, their vacations, and finding yourself behind, the 11 signs on this list should fundamentally change how you evaluate that comparison. Visible spending tells you almost nothing about financial health. The person whose life looks the most financially successful may be the person whose actual financial position is the most precarious. The car communicates nothing about the retirement account. The restaurant communicates nothing about the emergency fund. The wardrobe communicates nothing about the investment portfolio. The second reason is the patterns that might be showing up in your own financial behavior, not as judgment, as information. The lease that feels like a reasonable monthly payment, the furniture financing that seemed like a sensible way to furnish the new place, the future tense financial intentions that have been about to become present tense behaviors for longer than you'd like to acknowledge. Real wealth does not perform, it compounds. It lives in retirement accounts that nobody at the dinner table can see, in index funds that generate no Instagram content, in emergency savings that communicate nothing to anyone in your social circle, in the gap between income and spending that is entirely invisible from the outside and entirely transformative over time. The Ramsey Solutions National Study of Millionaires found that 94% of American millionaires lived below their means consistently throughout their wealth-building years. 88% were self-made. They drove ordinary cars, lived in modest homes relative to their income, and were largely indistinguishable from their non-millionaire neighbors by any visible metric. They had nothing to perform because they were too busy building. The difference between where you are and where you want to be financially is not the car in the driveway or the restaurant on Saturday night. It is whether the dollars flowing through your life are building something underneath the surface that nobody can see yet, or whether they are funding a surface that looks impressive while nothing accumulates underneath it. The private view is the one that matters, the one you see when you open your bank app alone, when nobody is watching, when the performance is paused and the actual numbers are visible. Make sure that view is one you can look at without flinching. That is the entire project.